Duh, I was on mute.
Okay.
So can you hear me good?
Yeah.
I hear you really good.
Oh, good.
So I just thought you could talk about anything you want, but I thought I would just throw out some words, like a lightning round, and just let you riff on it. How's that sound for now?
Sure.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
You look really good, Jim, with that background especially.
Yeah, I'm trying to cool off. I think it was 95 when I woke up already. Kind of hot these days.
Death Valley yesterday was 124 with a low of 106.
Yeah.
And you didn't leave, I don't think you left the homeless out of the picture either.
When I finished my doctorate, we met at a political fundraiser um, for a progressive candidate, and I had volunteered to play a little music. Um, and Dean was there, and he came up and asked me. He said, how busy are you these days? And I said, I'm substitute teaching. I work about as much as I want to, really. I would do the intake interviews and all the paperwork on new clients. Sometimes I would go find new clients, which isn't hard almost anywhere. Anyway, that ended up being more and more, and it finally turned into a full-time job where I was making diagnoses for mental health issues. So I did that. I don't know. There were things I liked about it.
And I think you guys housed about 300 homeless people, something like that.
Maybe over a period of time.
So let's do this. I have an idea. So let's get more into the music thing, because that was great. That's what I wanted to hear. I always tell people about how we met. And I never know if I'm telling the story correctly or not. So they probably want to hear it from your perspective.
Lane Emery's big band, there was and he found out I played guitar, and there was no guitar player in the band at the time, although there was a guitar and an amplifier. And Lane Emery kind of let me know that if I intended to get an A in his arranging course, I probably would be in that chair Wednesday night, every Wednesday night. So, and then one night we were going down in the elevator, and he handed me a harmonica, which we were getting into at that point. Asked if I could do anything with it, and I'm no good at it. I don't know Paul Butterfield or anything like that. But if you're playing around blues guys, you're going to try it sooner or later. So I played a little bit, and I think you probably realize that I wasn't a trained jazz player, and that a lot of it, when I didn't have to improvise, it sounded a lot more like blues. And we got together and started learning tunes and playing around in mostly neighborhood bars on the south side. We did eventually get a gig at Peppers, but we mostly played as a duo in these little bars, and money was like nothing. But it was enough, really, that if I started playing more, it meant I could stay in school, because it's pretty much all on weekends, at least initially. So playing music meant that I could probably stay in school a little more. So that was the beginning of it. We did eventually have a regular gig at Peppers, which is when the duo went out the window. The owner there, we went and played for him, and he liked it, but he said, in this bar, he said, you really need drums, you really need to have a basic drum player. So that's when we became a quartet. I mean, I think we were just using our first names when we were a duo, if I remember right. Just calling it Corky and Jim or something like that. But then we actually made it sound like a band name once we had 4 people.
I tell people that we really didn't have a name for the band until it was Jim Schwall.
Yeah.
We called ourselves Corky and Jim, but that was because we were Corky and Jim.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we moved up to Big John's.
Yeah, mine got a little better.
And we hung out with Steve Miller and all those guys, and
Barry Goldberg, and yeah. So Big Guns used a lot of the Southside bands too. I mean, a lot of the all or mostly black bands played there as well. So Howlin' Wolf played there, and whatever, everybody else. But also there were a number of starting to be a number of mixed race bands. Paul Butterfield's band and Charlie Musselwhite and guys like that. So it was a pretty good scene. I moved up to Old Town. I lived pretty close to it, and at that time, that was it was like turning into the hippest possible place to live in Chicago. Right down on the corner from where I lived was the Earl of Old Town, which is probably the best folk music venue. There were a couple of really good jazz clubs. Remember seeing Wes Montgomery play in my neighborhood, Jimmy Smith, guys like that. And then there was Big John, and later Mother Blues, which were mostly blues clubs.
Second City?
Oh, yeah. Right. Second City was just right down the block from Big John's, between Big John's and the Earl of Old Town, actually. And that was Second City's regular performance spot in a place called Piper's Alley. Mm-hmm. It was just a happening neighborhood. A lot of artists lived there, and I don't know. It was very cool. My roommate was a guy named David Noble, and he was the concert music critic for one of the Chicago daily papers. So I'm in this really cool situation now. I've got a roommate that I can talk about, Mozart or Bartok, and I'm surrounded by top-notch jazz clubs, folk clubs, you name it.
Comedy clubs.
Yeah, comedy clubs.
Actors.
Yeah, it was fun. Second City in those days was a lot of improvisation. And, I mean, those guys were drop-dead funny, and they were making it up. I mean, they were saying it. I have a favorite memory of Second City. Severn Darden had been in a skit where he played a Army general or something, a big wig.
Who was this?
Severn Darden,
Oh, right. Okay.
actor, and he was part of Second City. And in this skit, he, had a uniform and everything on. Well, afterwards, he didn't have time to change, but they used to have a question session at the end of the evening, and it happened right after the skit. So he's still dressed like a 5-star general, right? And he stayed in character. And somebody in the audience said, "Is it true that they're trying to put weapons in space?" And without batting an eyelash, he didn't hesitate a second. He stood up and said, "There's been a lot of scurrilous scuttlebutt about putting arms on Venus." That's like the smartest thing I've ever heard anybody say.
Putting what on Venus?
Arms. Putting arms on Venus.
Oh, my God.
Venus to mile over the arms.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God.
It works on about 4 different levels, and he just made it. He didn't blink. He just, said it.
Wow.
That was when I became a little more of a devotee of Second City.
Well, who was there at the time? Who else was at Second City? Some names people would recognize.
Oh, God, I wouldn't remember. That's a long time.
Yeah, I can't either. But I know the guy that played Joe in the movie Joe was there. And let's jump to Chet Helms, Janice Joplin, Bill Graham. All of a sudden, we're in San Francisco and we're being managed by Chet Helms.
After spending residency in San Francisco was about 6 months, I think, at the end of which I think everybody considered us one of the San Francisco bands. And we knew them all, of course, because almost all of these gigs used more than one band. The dance concerts, like at the Fillmore or the Avalon Ballroom, which Chet Helms ran, managed, whatever, there was always 3 bands. So, and usually you rotated. So it was band 1, 2, 3, and then you started over, band 1 again, 2, 3. So yeah, you got to know the other bands pretty well. We also took our turn doing the concerts, the Sunday concerts in the park. There was a tradition that developed of every Sunday in Golden Gate Park, 2 bands would play for free. And actually, we paid a little bit to do it. One of the bands would rent a flatbed truck for a stage, and the other band would rent a generator for the electricity. And the city didn't help us out very much there. They tolerated it. But every Sunday, there'd be hundreds of people in Golden Gate Park, dancing around and picnicking and listening to a couple of bands play. I know we split one of those with Jefferson Airplane. I'll never forget seeing them for the first time. That was we were there with them all day. So that was fun stuff. And the West Coast had other opportunities. We did play up into Vancouver, I think Portland, a couple of other trips out of town north, and also, other places around the Bay Area, of course. And south a little bit. LA never really worked out for us that well, but Huntington Beach, which is below LA actually, had one of the dinosaur clubs that was left that were like folk clubs. There was a whole network of them at one point, and over time they kind of disappeared. So Huntington Beach still had a place, where people would come to see, solo performers.
Golden Bear.
And by this time, the blues bands were being hired as well. I mean, both in Huntington Beach, Golden Bear was the name of the club, and also places like Club 47 in Boston. It was not uncommon to have a solo performer and a blues band. So we played there with Richie Havens. We played there with Arlo Guthrie. Bill Graham at the Fillmore and Chet Helms at the Avalon Ballroom were both 100% professional. They were every little detail had to be right. That they were part of the reason they were successful. Their stage crews were awesome. Everybody knew their jobs. It was just a really together thing. It wasn't, some slapdash thing. You can't picture a bunch of, hippies running around wearing headbands or something, somehow getting a show on. That's not how it was. There may have been hippies and headbands, but I also remember Chet Helms taking a broom out of a guy's hand and showing him the proper way to use a push broom. And he was right, of course. If you know how to do it the right way, you're going to do a better job. It's going to be quicker, So, yeah, and Graham was the same way. There was a lot of attention to detail. Nothing happened, by chance. So, because those guys were very smart and very thorough, that those lasted for such a long time.
And then there was a quiet night, of course.
Yeah. But by the time we were playing at the quiet night, the scene had changed a lot. But what was the same was that people were coming there, they were spending money to listen to someone. And we played there on Tuesday nights, but the next 5 nights there was somebody different pretty much every week. And often as not, it was a solo songwriter, a guy standing there with a guitar, singing songs he'd written.
Jimmy Buffett.
And there were some good ones. Long Wainwright, when I first met him at the Quiet Night, and other guys like that who wrote great songs. But then Richard also shook things up because he did sometimes have bands. And I saw Miles Davis there. So that, not exactly folk club, he wasn't locked into it. He brought up blues guys like Lightning Hopkins from Texas and people like that, as well as all the singer-songwriters. And some of them were just, Arlo Guthrie was a total friend of his for life, friend of Richard's for life, because Richard saw something he liked and hired him when no one knew who he was yet. And, helped him stay alive and, get a career going, So Arlo would show up for the Founders Day parties for the hell of it. And at that point, he was pretty well known and had hit records and so on. And he would come back and play Richard's relatively tiny club once a year out of gratitude, because that meant, every seat in the house would be full for a week. So that was, his way of paying back. He was a seriously funny guy, by the way, not just the routines. I remember him one night. He I was laughing so hard tears were running down my face. And it was just him talking about his ride in from the airport. It was hysterically funny, and it was just talking about his cab driver and all kinds of other goofy stuff that happened just on his way to the club, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, and he brought in Bob Marley, and he brought in jazz people.
Yeah, exactly.
Miles Davis, just
kind of a coup, because Chicago does and did then, it still does have some pretty good jazz clubs.
So do you want to run through, I think this just came to my mind, you want to run through the people that were in our band? At Peppers, of course, it was Jack Myers, and if you could think of all the drummers and bass players, and then talk about Sam, and then talk about Russ and Jack Dawson and Josh Davidson, and all the guys that were with us the whole time, that we still love.
Yeah. Well, we started out when we first became a quartet at Peppers, and we had to have a bass and drum player. Junior Wells had been playing Tuesday nights, and we took over his slot. Well, when he left, of course, the guys that had been playing with him on Tuesday were free. So we started out using whoever had been playing with Junior. And I don't know if I have everybody in order. At first, I think there was a drummer named Levi. I don't remember his last name. Yeah, exactly. Shovel some in the other corner, Levi.
That's what he used to do.
Yeah. We ended up with a couple of pretty good bass players. Little Bob Anderson for quite a while, who ended up, he played with everybody. He was in James Cotton's band, and he was no accent. He was called Little Bob. He was a pretty kind of guy. Who one night walked me to the car, and we were pretty rare, white guys in that neighborhood. And Bob walked me to the car in one of the first gigs with him, and I said, "You don't have to do that." And he said, "Well, I want to." And then I said, "Well, you're going to protect me from the bad guys around here?" And he weighs all of 110 pounds. And he said, "No," he said, "I'll just walk with you, and then people will know you belong here." Okay, cool. Later on, there was Jack Myers, who continued with us after Peppers for a while. Totally unpredictable bass player, and just
yes.
It was right. I mean, essentially, what he was right, but he wasn't doing it the way all the other bass players did it. He just made up his own lines, found his own way from one chord to the next.
And I think we had Blue Blood one time, and we had a guy named Mac Arnold another time.
Yeah.
What about drummers? I can't remember all the drummers.
Yeah, we had a couple different drummers after Levi. The one I really remember was Billy Davenport, who later, when Sam Lay left Paul Butterfield's band,
right.
Billy was the one that played pretty much the rest of Paul's career with him.
And S.P. Leary played with us, and that one guy, the really famous drummer, I never could remember his name, considered, everyone's favorite next to Sam Lay, of course.
Well, I'm not sure who that was. S.P. Leary was probably another ubiquitous guy who, played with everybody.
And what about, okay, so then we move north, and we end up somehow getting Russ Chadwick and Josh Davidson.
Yeah, Josh had been Oh, he's been playing around with a couple people. He played with Steve Miller for a while. I don't know if he played with him in the band with Barry Goldberg.
In Bloomfield. He played with Bloomfield.
Yeah. And then he ended up, when Jack Myers left, he became our bass player. And he was our permanent guy for quite a while. Eventually, he had to get off the road. It was like that or lose his life. So he made that choice. And we replaced him with Jack Dawson, who we knew from Ann Arbor. And our drummer was Russ Chadwick, who you went to high school with. And that was pretty much it. That was the way the band settled down for quite some time. And then when we stopped playing, I don't know how you ever met Rollo. I have no clue how that happened. But when we reformed the band after we took off about 2 years, I think, something like that, 2 or 3 years, and then we got a new band together. And when we did, it was with Sam Lay on the drums. Sam was like the go-to drummer, almost from the minute he got to Chicago. It seemed like whenever somebody needed a drummer, it was, go get Sam. When Little Walter left Muddy Waters to go out on his own, he got Sam to play drums. James Cotton did the same thing. Some years later, Sam on the drums. And when we reformed the band, it was Sam Lay on the drums.
The way we met Rollo is that Sam had to leave because he wasn't making enough money with us. We were playing the Quiet Night on Tuesdays, and we had like 12 people show up at those dates. Then we got Shelley Flotkin to replace Sam, but we also had a bass player with Sam, John Sauter.
Oh, right. All right.
And when John Sauter went with Ted Nugent, we needed a bass player, and Shelley is the guy that found us Rollo.
Oh, okay. I never knew what the time frame was there.
So our 70s group ended up leaving Sam behind in 69, and then getting Rollo, and we had Shelley, and it was you and me, and that was the Siegel Schwall band of the 70s on RCA Records and all that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Shelley was a big change from Sam, but a good one for us. It worked well. He's a real clean drummer. He's been playing a lot of traditional jazz, and then Rollo, of course, a lot of his experience was in jazz, mostly more modern jazz. So that was a kind of a bizarre band, and people were still thinking of us mostly as a blues band. But a lot of the stuff we recorded then really wasn't blues tunes anymore. Right. We were stretching the limits.
But when we got back with Sam, when Shelley had his demise and passed on, and we were going to put the band together again, we decided to have Sam Lay the drummer, and that's when we became more of a blues band because Sam was doing all blues tunes.
Yeah.
But how was it to play with Sam?
Well, he was a total powerhouse. And in addition to watching him play, I also started playing some gigs with him. And we were just, picking up a Tuesday or Wednesday on the south side somewhere. And he had wanted to do some gigs with Otis Spann. And because I still played at least sometimes in Siegel Schwall, played country blues, played old style blues, he thought I was the guitar player to do it. And so we did these little pickup gigs, you know. I'm playing with Sam Ray, and I'm playing with Otis Spann, and we're playing in some little bar. And at the end of the night, the bartender is giving me some money, or club owner or whatever, and I'm supposed to pay everybody just because I was standing up with a guitar. You know, they would give me the money, and I'm giving, you know, two of the greatest blues players like $11. I'm embarrassed, but it sure was fun. Those gigs were.
So what about Rollo? Talk about Rollo for a while, because that's another personality. The thing I loved about Siegel Schwall is that everyone so much formed. It's sort of like everyone intensified their individuality. It was like we didn't blend in together. We did the opposite. And I think that's what people loved about the band, because there were these four entirely different personalities that weren't compromised in any way. And it worked, you know. But Rollo was quite an amazing.
Yeah, he did. You know, usually, I mean, there are jokes about bass solos. You know, it's kind of, you know, tell what I can think of one. Okay, there's guys on a safari in Africa, and there's drums in the distance all the time. And he asks his native guy, he says, the drums are driving me nuts. What is this about? The native guide says, oh, don't worry, Juana. It's always there. You know, it's always like that. You always hear the drums when you're out in the jungle. And, oh, okay, so the safari goes on. A couple of days later, all of a sudden, the drums stop. And the guy goes to his native guide and he says, what does that mean? And he says, oh, Juana, very bad. Bass solo. All right, there's my bass solo joke.
It's a good one.
Ronald turned it into an art form. It wasn't a time to go to the bar and get yourself another beer. It was a time to watch him and see what he's going to do. And he just toyed with the audiences, and just, you know, brought that whole. He was completely unpredictable. They never knew what was going to happen when. And in some cases, they'd seen it before. You know, they had an idea something was going to happen when, at some point, but they didn't know for sure, and they didn't know when. And he would just jerk their chain. He played with them. And he could be just as unpredictable in his singing. And it was the band that it started, you know, somewhat with Shelley, and definitely with Sam. We had a band where everybody sang, and you and I probably did the lion's share of it. But
like three songs instead. 3 songs. The lion's share. But when you go 3, 3, 2, and 2, that's the set.
Yeah, right. But yeah, no, just at some point in every set, you know, Sam and Al, Rollo would sing, and so that gave us somebody else that the audience could watch.
And then we had Arthur Irby at the end.
Yeah, and sometimes Frank Donaldson on some gigs. And Sam actually, I think, got to like the fact that when there was another drummer available, he could go up front and sit with a guitar and sing the song, you know, sing the song up there. It gave us a lot of flexibility. Yeah, the Frank Donaldson gigs were because sometimes we would do that Bill Russo piece.
Right.
And because of that, it meant we had to have a drummer who could read and play with an orchestra and follow a conductor. So that was where Frank Donaldson came in. But I mean, he's a great player. He can do anything.
So anyway, any last words?
I think that's everybody that ever played with us. I mean, we even got Bill Davenport and Jack Myers in there and stuff. It probably covers the bases.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, talk to you later.
Yep, say hi, Holly.
Okay, bye, Jim. Love you. Bye.